The two new infantry commanders, Tokugawa and Bai, have just been announced, and I hope you're ready for the infantry to be meta. Oh, wait, isn't it already? What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to another Rise of Kingdoms gameplay episode from your very own Chappy Gaming. And today we are talking about the two new infantry commanders announced today, April 12th, and it is insane. So, first off, these two commanders are Tokugawa and Bai. Very cool commanders historically. I believe Tokugawa is a Japanese commander and Bai is a Chinese commander. And both of them are infantry smite commanders, which just... Lilith, thank you. It has been so long that we've been waiting for the smite mechanic to get a little bit of love. I have numerous clips where I'm like, hey, I think smite's great. However, they haven't really invested in it. I'll show it right here. But they're finally doing it. And these commanders are absolutely going to break the meta. Save up your gold heads. Don't max your ranged commanders just yet. I was literally contemplating today, should I just, max Cordoba and Gashamato? Why not? Well, these guys are changing the meta. So I hope you're ready for it. Let's start with the breakdown of Tokugawa because he's the garrison commander. And we'll also be talking about some of the potential pairings that you might want to be using these commanders for. All of this is going to have chapters below, so if there's one part that you particularly care about, feel free to jump towards that, and we can cover that as needed. So, without further ado, Tokugawa is a infantry, garrison, and smite commander, which immediately has you thinking, who could we potentially pair him with? Gorgo is probably not a bad choice, but let's actually look through his skills. So, to begin with, we have his first skill, which is, I'm not even going to be able to pronounce that. However, that's his first skill. And it is a single target damage, rage requirement of 1,000, which is pretty standard, nothing too crazy there. But he deals smite damage to a target troop of damage factor 2,400, which is quite a bit. Comparatively, it's slightly lower than Ho Chu Bing. He has 2,700 damage factor in his single target skill, but this is smite damage, which we love. And it has a sweet little debuff, which reduces the target's defense by 10% for 3 seconds. Now, this is really cool on a garrison commander because what it means is it's debuffing the rallies and swarmers attacking it, which makes them easier to kill. So if you do have Tokugawa as a garrison commander, you can probably swarm the different rallies that are attacking him because he's debuffing them. Now, the other thing that this guy has is he has a mighty shield. We've really just added mighty to everything, haven't we? Mighty shield, mighty healing, you name it, we have mighty something. But that's okay. And this mighty shield absorbs damage factor up to 600. So that's pretty good. There is some potential synergy with other commanders here, like Scipio, who takes advantage of shields and things like that. But I don't know. We'll keep reading through, see what else we got from him. His second skill, Mikawabushi, whenever this commander's troop launches a basic attack or counterattack, their infantry units have a 25% chance to gain 30% attack for 4 seconds. Infantry units in the troop gain 10% march speed and 10% defense. This is kind of underwhelming, if I'm being honest. The interesting thing here is you have a chance to gain this on both counterattack and basic attack. Now, this mechanic is kind of important. Because a basic attack is when I hit you. So in combat, right, there is a two kinds of attacks that can happen. A basic attack, I hit you, and that's that. And that's the white damage dealt. A counterattack is when a target then hits you back. You have a chance to counterattack damage them. It's almost based upon your defense. The cool thing about this is that 25% chance is actually going to be really high because this is on almost every action that occurs inside combat. And this is a slightly new mechanic. I don't know that we've seen anything that triggers on both basic attack or counterattack. So odds are pretty high you're going to have this 30% attack pretty much at all times. So that's pretty nice. The march speed bonus, I don't know. It feels kind of silly on a garrison commander, if I'm being honest. Now, that said, he may not have to be fully garrisoned, which is okay. But I'm a little underwhelmed by that, if I'm being honest. That's not my favorite thing in the world. Moving on to his next skills, we have Nagashino Gambit. If this commander is a garrison commander, whenever the garrison receives a buff, it has a 50% chance to gain a damage absorbing Mighty Shield for 3 seconds. Another Mighty Shield. Essentially what's happening here is he is reducing the damage that he is taking, which is really nice, again, with when we look at Gorgo as a potential pair, because she also has some similar skills that essentially just dismiss the damage that she is potentially going to take. So there is a really nice synergy here, and she's already a Smite commander, so I'm not saying that this is the best pairing, but it's the most obvious pairing that first comes to mind for me. So just something to consider. The other thing is, Gorgo also has a skill right here that says whenever the garrison launches a basic attack, it has a chance to deal extra smite damage. So you're getting a smite bonus there. Overall, there's just really good synergies. And remember, Gorgo has a lower rage requirement, which is really important because, again, that means you're triggering skills more often. It's the most obvious pairing. We're going to talk about pairings a little bit later, but just something to keep in mind. So let's go back over here. Now we have Siege of Osaka. Whenever this commander's troop launches a basic attack or counterattack damage, it has a 15% chance, 30% if it has a shield, which it probably will, to deal smite damage to up to 3 enemy troops in a fan shape. So here you've got a little bit of AoE, which means as a garrison, this is huge because you don't want to come near this commander or it's going to hurt. So that's really nice as well. And you're probably going to have a shield, obviously. Now, he also has this skill, which is really, really long, but also really, really important. So this one is Nikotosho, and I probably butchered the pronunciation. Forgive me in the comment section. I love you guys. If this commander is a garrison commander, which they probably will be, the garrison deals 10% more damage. Whenever the garrison deals smite damage, which it will if it's paired with Gorgo, it has a 25% chance to cleanse one of slow, poison, exhaustion, or normal debuff effect from itself. If that's the case, it cleanses 1 stack. It gains 1 stack of the Tosho effect for 10 seconds. Each stack increases the health of the garrison's infantry units by 5%. This is really important because the longer the battle goes on, the more stacks of this Tosho effect you're going to get. And it can stack up to 4 times, potentially increasing your health up to 20%, which is a lot. And its duration resets when it gets another stack. In other words, you're probably just going to keep this thing rolling. This is going to be really important because with a lot of the rally commanders, they do have kind of a debuff effect that can happen. And so this is going to help you a lot on a garrison. In fact, Theo originally had this skill. So this guy's actually kind of a better version of Theo because he has this. So this is a huge deal, but the more important value here is if you have him paired with another smite commander, because it is whenever this garrison deals smite damage, you are going to be cleansing these debuffs constantly and maintaining that Tosho effect to give you that extra health. So he's really, really good as a garrison, and I'm convinced that he's probably going to be the new garrison meta, only because we see Attila Subutai, which just came back into the meta, and you probably want to have some sort of counter here. We're talking about infantry versus cavalry again, which is super powerful. So I could see this being a good counter to Attila Subutai. I'm trying to pull up Subutai's skills right now just to double check and see if he has any debuffs. So he does. Both Subutai and Attila have debuffs that would be cleansed from this. So I believe Attila has a defense debuff that you're going to clear. And then Subutai has the burn effect, which we know about from Takeda. This would also probably get cleared just looking at this because the burn effect will increase normal damage taken, which it says explicitly is going to be cleared here, normal debuffs. So this is kind of crazy. This garrison commander is without a doubt going to be meta. So that covers Tokugawa. Let's talk about Bai Qi, the deity of death. What a name. That is crazy. And Bai Qi is the commander that we've been waiting for at least a year now. He has infantry, versatility, and smite. Yes, the smite talent tree makes a return. It's going to be crazy. So let's start with his first skill here. Let heaven and earth grieve. It is an AoE type attack. And he deals smite damage up to 5 enemy troops in a fan, damage factor 2400, which is huge That is a huge AoE, and it is the same AoE, conveniently, as William Wallace. So each target has a 30% chance to take an extra 15% damage. I'm sorry. What? That's a huge debuff. What is that about? So that's a pretty big deal. And we'll have to see how this manifests. If that's an extra 15% damage from this particular skill, it's a little bit more balanced. But if it is a debuff generally, that would be insane. As for the next skill, we have infantry units gain 20% march speed, which we need. Infantry need march speed. This actually puts William Wallace plus Bai Qi at a 40% march speed bonus, which is pretty massive. I think that may be higher than the march speed bonus that you get with Scipio. It is, so long as you're not triggering it. That is better than William Wallace Scipio, and it should be comparable. It's the same as the march speed bonus that you're getting with Luce. So not crazy, but it does help to make sure that all your marches are moving at the same speed. 10% health. This is probably the biggest bummer. I love health on infantry. They desperately need it. But 10% health is really not going to do much for you. Again, with William Wallace, this is going to put you up to a 20% health bonus, which isn't bad. But most importantly, you get a 40% attack bonus. Now, with William Wallace, that puts you up to 70% attack bonus. You heard me correctly. 70% attack bonus. What? Okay, so we'll continue. On to his other skills here. We have Ravager of Land and Spirit. If this commander's troop is a tracking troop on the map, which it will be, their troop gains 10 stacks of the Malice effect. I love this. If its number of Malice stacks is higher than the target's percentage of units remaining, it spends 10 Malice stacks to deal smite damage to the target, damage factor of 300, which again, I believe also plays off some of the talents within the smite tree, because the smite tree has benefits. When you deal smite damage, you have the opportunity to deal more damage. It also gains a 10% bonus to severely wounded inflicted and a 20% bonus to rage recovery speed. This skill in itself makes Bai Qi a must-have, because what happens is if you're hitting a target that is at 50% health or less, you're just essentially nuking them out off the map. This is like the Belisarius skill on steroids, because you have that 10% bonus to severely wounded inflicted, which is, again, absolutely crazy. And we haven't seen this before, but that bonus to rage recovery means you're also going to be skill cycling faster. So this skill in itself is absolutely insane. On to the next one, Martial Culture. This commander's troop deals 10% more normal damage. When attacking a failed troop, their troop gains 10 stacks of Malice upon entering combat, more Malice, and 10 stacks of Malice for every 10% of unit it loses. That is okay. I think the advantage here is as you lose troops, you in theory get stronger. We'll see. A 5% bonus to smite damage is dealt up to 30% for every 10% of units it is missing. So again, you are getting stronger as you get weaker, which is a really nice mechanic. I think we've seen this before in some other commanders as well. I think Constantine has something similar where he can trigger certain effects when he loses health. So this is actually a really big deal, because when you're in a murder ball, this will benefit you in terms of staying in that fight as long as possible. If this commander's troop is on the map, after severely wounding 400,000 enemy units, that's a lot of enemy units. I'm just going to put that out there. That is a lot of enemy units. It gains a 5% damage bonus to normal damage dealt. When reduced to 50% of units remaining, it deals 60% more damage and takes 30% less damage for the next 6 seconds. That's crazy. When reduced to 15% units remaining, it deals 100% more damage and takes 50% less damage for the next 6 seconds. He is going to be the perfect murder ball commander. You're going to throw Bai Qi into a murder ball. You're going to target marches that are half health. And then you're going to run that march into the ground. He is going to be the best altar march. He's going to be the best murder ball commander. I'm calling it now. You guys can let me know what you think in the comments. This guy is the best murder ball commander in the game. Full stop. So now we know Bai Qi and we know Tokugawa. Let's talk about the potential pairings, and let's start with Bai Qi, because I think there are some pairings that could make a lot of sense. So here we are. We have Rise of Kingdoms up just behind us, and the first one is going to be Luce. Now, Luce is a smite damage commander. He deals AoE smite damage, so maybe he's a good candidate. I think that you probably could put Luce with William Wallace or Bai Qi. It could work really well. Now, where Luce comes out ahead is he does have a defense bonus, and we don't really see a whole lot of defense bonus with Bai Qi today. So that could be a really nice combo. Now, it also does gain the 20% march speed, which we need if we want this to be a semi-quick infantry march, and he takes 20% less skill damage. Now, the 20% less skill damage isn't that big of a deal when we talk about Bai Qi, but again, he's not very tanky. So having the ability to be a little bit tankier is going to be a little bit more valuable in my opinion. Now, he has another 20% attack bonus, which again is crazy, and he has a chance to deal extra smite damage. That a chance to deal extra smite damage is going to be really important when we look at that smite talent tree. Again, you want those bonuses to smite damage to come in. Last but not least, their troop deals 10% more normal damage, which again is going to boost smite damage as well. And whenever they deal smite damage, the target deals 10% less damage for 3 seconds. So that's also going to be really nice when we talk about like almost 1v1 scenarios. So Luce is a potential obvious pairing. I could totally see this. The other benefit here is you get 1 basic attack worth of rage with the expertise of Luce, which again is going to be nice when we talk about cycling that rage very quickly. If you have Bai Qi and you also have rage regen from that, you're going to be firing off skills really, really quickly, and that's a double AoE that I believe can hit up to 5 troops, so that's huge. Now, the other pairing that I would be remiss not to mention is William Wallace. William Wallace has not really had a clear pairing in the past. And what I like here is if you put Bai Qi with William Wallace, you can run Scipio Luce. And Scipio Luce is actually probably the best single infantry march, I would say. I know a lot of people say William Wallace. Scipio Luce is really, really good. So that could be a really nice pairing. And looking at William Wallace again, we have another AoE smite damage. And this hits 3 troops currently targeting this commander as well, which is going to be nice, especially if you're getting swarmed down. Again, Bai Qi likes getting swarmed down because the fewer troops you have, the more damage you're dealing. So this will actually play off that. Now, he does have the health, which is nice. It plays off of Bai Qi. That gives you up to 20% health. And again, you can get up to 70% attack. From the march speed standpoint, you're up to 40%, same as Luce today. And then this commander's troop takes 10% less normal damage. And whenever this commander's troop deals smite damage with a damage factor greater than 1,000, it has an 80% chance that that damage will be increased by 40%. Now, we did see that Bai Qi's first skill will give a bonus to this because Bai Qi's first skill says, hey, you have a chance to take an extra 30% damage. So the two of these have a pretty good synergy, I would say. When attacking a troop on the map, this commander's troop deals 10% more smite damage and 10% more normal attack damage. Really, it just does both. And when this commander's troop uses an active skill or is slowed, it cleanses all slow effects from nearby allied troops and friendly troops and grants them a shield. This particular skill doesn't have a whole lot of synergy. I think it's fine. Infantry, you really don't want to be slowed. I'm not seeing this as being like ultra meta, we need to have this. Now, the curveball is really going to be Scipio here. You could potentially use him with Scipio or Ragnar. Personally, I wouldn't. I think that really he works well with Luce or William Wallace. From a pairing standpoint, I would probably run him with William Wallace only because of the fact that I can run Scipio Luce, and then I can have Scipio Luce, and then I can have William Wallace with Bai Qi, and you could probably even make a pretty good third march there if you wanted to with Ragnar and potentially Guan or some of those other commanders. I don't think that Guan has a place with either of these smite commanders just because he is a skill damage commander. Going back to Tokugawa, who is the best pairing for him? I think you have 2 options. The first option is probably going to be Gorgo. She is the most obvious for a pure infantry type garrison. The next commander that I think you probably consider is going to be Hera. I think Hera continues to be totally viable. He has a mighty shield, so you get even more mighty shields. The challenge with Heraclius is typically when you do have this kind of mighty shield stacking mechanic, they are not additive. So when you trigger one mighty shield and you already have another mighty shield, they actually just replace each other. So you're really not getting the most value out of the mighty shield when you're running Heraclius. That's like my biggest concern here. There is a bonus to counterattack damage dealt, which is nice. Heraclius is perhaps the best generic garrison commander in the game. But again, he's dealing more skill damage. Skill damage is not what you want with Heraclius. You really want smite damage. So I'm thinking Gorgo is going to be the best pairing. That's just my take. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comment section below. Are you pumped about these commanders? Will you be maxing them? Does this change your investment order? And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button right over there, bottom right hand corner, and drop a like on the video. It helps me out a ton. Thank you all. Chappy out.